Good evening. The opinions and statements voiced by our guests do not necessarily reflect the opinions of this network. Enjoy the shows.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army. Army officers say the missile, found sometime last week, has been inspected at Roswell, New Mexico, and sent to Wright Field, Ohio, for further inspection.
Now, historic films made in the spring of 1948 and just released show Eniwetok preparing for heavily guarded and still largely secret tests of new atomic weapons. The test's purpose is to measure atomic effects on thousands of different materials, 30,000 tons of them, not, as at Bikini, to prove military effectiveness.
San Francisco police say that 9 persons have been arrested in a narcotics raid on the headquarters of the Grateful Dead, a widely popular singing group. 2 members of the group, Rod McKernan and Robert Weir, and their business manager, Danny Rifkin, have been booked on suspicion of possessing narcotics.
3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff. 32 minutes past the hour. Liftoff on Apollo 11. Tower cleared.
We got a roll program. Neil Armstrong reporting the roll and pitch program, which puts Apollo 11 on a proper heading.
I'm going to step off the limb now. That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Well, strange lights are causing a viral buzz on YouTube. Could we have caught extraterrestrial activity on a recent newscast? Brandon Arroyo investigates.
As the newscast ended, the controversy began back on September 26th. What is that light shining in the back of the dark night sky?
With coverage reaching all the way back to 1948, for over 70 years, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Now, Fate Magazine Radio is carrying on that tradition of setting the standard in paranormal talk radio as we report and discuss some of the most mysterious and perplexing phenomena imaginable in this strange world of ours. Now, here is your host of Fate Magazine Radio, Kat Hobson.
Good evening. Welcome to Fate Mag Radio, the online voice of Fate Magazine. I am Kat Hobson, your host. The voice of Fate, as my friend Rick always says. And I am so glad that y'all are here. I know that several of y'all are aware that I've been battling COVID and have been sending me so many prayers and blessings and healings, and I have felt them all. And I have to say thank you. I am very fortunate. I don't appear to be going into any kind of wacky doodle complication situations, so I'm very thankful for that. I am doing great. My fever went away the night of my infusion, and tot and dot, it's just a matter of healing. I appreciate the prayers for my husband as well. And tonight, I am so pumped up about this show. I am a huge fan of tonight's guest because I consider her a friend no more than we speak, but I just value her so much. Janice Carlson is the author of Soul Sensing. She is a psychic, she is a medium, and she actually accidentally discovered her ability to communicate with the dead. And so since then, in 1992, she has done thousands of professional afterlife communications with a money-back guarantee of contact. I don't know anyone else who does that. And that's one of the reasons I do value her so much, because she is who and what she says that she is. And tonight is not only just a chance to chat with Janice. Janice is also bringing her 2022 New Year predictions. She works off the Chinese calendar, which begins February 1st, and this will be the year of the water tiger. Janice, I am so glad you're here. Thank you for joining me tonight.
Well, thanks for having me, Kat. I appreciate it.
Well, I love talking with you. And this is something that people really seek you for. So I appreciate you bringing it to the show tonight.
Yeah, I do have clients that want their yearly personal reading done, a psychic reading, and in a half an hour we can usually cover the whole year, and they take feverish notes, but it kind of is a nice way for them to start the year, if you know what I mean, just to kind of get a sense of the lay of the land a little bit.
Well, I think that it's much better to go in. I used to be mixed on this, but I have come to find out that if I can go in with a little foreknowledge, or just not in a position to get blindsided by something, that things tend to go a little smoother.
Yes, absolutely. And what will happen in 2 days, when we get to February 1st, we will then feel the effect of the Chinese year of the water tiger on top of the normal kind of currents that come in a year. And so when I do readings, they're kind of my own homemade mix of looking at the Chinese animal, zodiac animal for the year, and then looking at Western astrology, different signs and how they'll be affected by what's happening in the year, the elements like the water tiger, and then going into some tarot card stuff and obviously my psychic impressions, which kind of come like lightning bolts out of the blue more than anything else. But it's been a pretty good mix. I predicted the pandemic in 2019, and there it was. By 2020 we were seeing it full blown. And I've always felt that if you don't pay attention to world news, you're really going to be in trouble probably, because there was that outbreak in China in 2019, and they were a world away from many of us, and yet look at the difference it's made in our lives. Look what you're going through right now.
Well, I tell you that I really never anticipated that I would catch this. I never felt threatened. And I was vaccinated.
You were vaccinated. It was a breakthrough.
So, it was just such a surprise. And I do think, though, at this point, my husband and I were just addressing this, that this is not something that anyone is going to be missing from this point on.
Oh, no.
I think that, I think this is going to be something everyone experiences to a degree.
Well, Omicron is very, very contagious. So,
yes, it is.
You would be a fortunate person if you don't catch it, probably.
Or a very cautious one.
Yeah, yes, extremely, yeah.
I mean, you would have to go into hermit mode.
Yes, you would. You literally would. Because you were going out in public masked, right? And you'd had your vaccinations, so
I had my
there you have it.
Right. And I will say that my mask was always with me. I wore it when I felt led to.
Yeah.
I trusted my instincts. And I told you about the one incident that I walked in on, and I was like, oh, I cannot get this on fast enough. And apparently I didn't. But, it was just a lot of people doing a gab fest in a very narrow space, and I was putting it on and backing out, and it was just, I was like, ugh, I just got hit, and I knew I got it.
Oh, dear.
So,
Oh, dear.
It was just, one of those things. But,
Yeah.
But I had a great doctor.
Oh, good. Oh, good. And it is sounding like you're coming out of it pretty well, too, thank God. So
yes. Thank you.
That's a very good thing. Yeah. But that's what I do, and generally that's how I kind of mix this up and get a sense of it gives me structure when I'm doing predictions to kind of look at all these different astrologies. And the year of the tiger is we were talking earlier about you being a water sign at Scorpio, and how the double water from the water tiger, may have made this retrograde kind of bad for you. Shall we say soupy,
Soupy is a good word. Soupy is a good word.
Good way.
Yes.
Yeah. And so it affects different signs of the Western horoscope in certain ways, and I'll be talking some more about that. The Earth signs like Taurus and let's see, who else do we include with Earth? Virgo, Capricorn. They are less likely to have unpleasant surprises in 2022. They're more likely to have a healthier, more fortunate year than they had in 2021. And I can say that as a Taurus, that I ended up having to have 2 surgeries and a very nasty case of poison ivy, and it felt like most of it was just coming out of left field,
Wow.
I mean, one of them was a surgery because I had fallen and broken my thumb tendon, They were just freaky, stupid things, and they really just felt like they were coming out of left field. I really didn't expect any of these things to happen, but fortunately, we Earth signs are going to have less of a bumpy road in 2022. The fire signs, Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius, are the most likely to have bad tempers this year, and so they have to watch that. So, we look at the tiger, and you can see, a fiery temper there, and a short fuse. And so it's very important for those signs, the fire signs, to keep themselves in check and be able to avoid harming others or harming themselves with just the temper tantrum type things.
Yes.
Fire signs should also do their best not to get discouraged about projects that don't just pop together easily, because they may not. So just be aware of that you don't want to let other people dash your hopes for the things you do want to get done in the coming year. And also just to be aware that you don't want to get too depressed, because you can tuck that anger inside and then it can turn into depression on you for the fire signs. So usually fire signs do pretty well in most years, but this is a year when you have to sort of modulate your moods more. And again, those would be Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius, and maybe to some extent kind of form your expectations as things unfold, instead of knowing ahead of time how things are going to go. The air signs, Gemini, Libra, Aquarius, will be in the driver's seat. And you know what? They often are, because they are air signs, so they tend to get out ahead of the action of all the other signs and kind of know what's coming down the road. But
That's interesting.
They can be, isn't it? I've always wondered if I wanted to be the sign that I am. If I didn't, what sign would I pick? And I think I'd pick an air sign, because they have that wonderful aerial view of what's coming up. They are very intuitive, and they can kind of read people ahead of events and foretell things. So they're in this particular year, they just need to be sure that they're really certain of what they're seeing before they leap. The leaping of the tiger, look before you leap, kind of a motto there. And then these social air signs will be able to get out more as COVID seems to abate. And so your ability to get out more and be social with people is going to help quite a bit too. The water signs, Cancer, Pisces, and we were talking about you earlier, Scorpio, Kat, usually go with the flow. They almost always can go with the flow and not drown and not get hurt. But that double water indication can make you feel like you're swimming through Jell-O when you're trying to get things done. And yeah, right. I mean, you feel like you take one step forward and something pushes you a couple steps back. And so that they're having a year probably off and on, especially during the retrogrades, when they're going to be irritated because they're used to going with the flow and controlling the flow to some extent, and yet it doesn't seem to work that way. They're overcome by waves at times. This is especially true, we'll take it literally here and say that this is not a year as a water sign to mess around with water. In other words, if you're being told, turn around, don't drown with flood postings and things, or if you're involved in water sports, this would be a year to really respect the element of water and not take any risky moves there. So that's sort of an overview of what's happening with the signs. It's also interesting to me that water signs this is a year when they're very likely to become engaged or get married or go forward with a romantic relationship that may have been stuck in the past.
That's interesting. Is it just because the water would help that flow?
Yeah. And because water really represents emotion, and so people are more likely to come forward with a marriage proposal or be more open about emotions, that kind of thing. It's a particularly good year for all signs to exercise their negative, any kind of negative energy in their workspaces, like by saging or putting fringed items on chairs. I have a whole chapter in my book about in soul sensing, about getting rid of evil spirits or negative spirits in your living space, because some people are feeling more haunted than visited by spirits.
That has been true for the entire past year, has it not?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. It's also a year of speedy learning. So kids and kids that have been held back by COVID are more likely to be able to jump forward in their lessons faster than anticipated.
Well, that's a blessing.
Yes, it is. And it's a blessing for those who are thinking about changing their line of work, their career. What we're going through right now is something I've called the Great American Walkout, where a lot of people are just saying, I'm not going back to work for $12 an hour. I'm just not doing it, And so if you're looking to retrain into another field or even start your own business, this is a year where that's really smiled upon by astrology in any case.
Well, that's pretty neat. I've been watching this as, they call it the Great Walkout, I think. And I'm like, I've never heard, and I'm sure that my parents' and grandparents' generations are just spinning right now. But, we had gotten so far away from hearth and home for the money, for the prestige, for the buying luxury items and luxury homes and doing all the things that you have to have money for. And I think aside from the income, I think people have decided that these things are just simply non-necessity. We've lost so many people. Everybody's been touched by this. And I think people are just like, you know what? I'm not going to sweat the small stuff. I'm going to do what I have to do to be happy, to take care of my family, to keep all of us together and safe. And that's what I think is stemming this. But I'm going to ask you for your response to that, but we have to take a break. So let's do that and get that out of the way, and we will be right back. Y'all please come back with us.
Warning, the following message does not necessarily reflect the views of WBHM-DB or its hosts, guests, listeners, or of any functioning adult in general. In fact, Frank should probably seek professional help. Listener discretion is advised.
Hi there, Frank Lee here. I thought that I would spend a few moments telling you about the positivity from the network here. The overall message of para-unity and happiness, and how everyone here wants to get along with everyone out there, and how everything is just wonderful. Wait, Cat's not looking. Okay, I've got something to really tell you. Okay, so I'm going to tell you what's really going on. Honestly, all that being nice and positive crap was kind of hurting my soul, as dark as it is. So, what's really happening? Well, you see it all the time. Everybody and their brother out there has a paranormal team because they watched a couple of episodes of Ghost Hunters or some crap like that. So they go and they spend half their mortgage payment on tools and things that light up that they don't understand. And then the next logical step after buying matching black t-shirts and posing like 90s rappers for their Facebook page is to, of course, have their own podcast. Well, you know what? You're not going to find that crap here. What we have here at WBHM Digital Broadcasting is the best host, the best guest, bringing you real information. All of the hosts here on this network know their stuff. They are the people who have been out there doing the work, doing actual research. And no, by research, I don't mean binge watching some kind of cheesy TV show on Netflix. I mean reading books. I mean out in the field doing the legwork. And who are they interviewing on their shows? They're bringing you the people they have learned from. They're bringing you the best in the field, covering all kinds of topics from UFOs and aliens to Bigfoot to cryptozoology to ghosts to anything you can think of, a bit strange and unexplained. It is here, and you're going to get the best information here. So stay tuned to WBHM Digital Broadcasting. Don't go anywhere. Speaking of going somewhere, I've got to go before my mic gets cut. We'll see you there on WBHM-DB.
Welcome back to Fate Mag Radio, the online voice of Fate Magazine, and I'm Kat, your host, with my guest, Janice Carlson. And Janice, I said that I would bring that right back to you. Thank you for your patience.
Oh, yes.
But, we were talking about all the things, and I had mentioned, COVID brain, apparently. Good heavens. I had mentioned feeling, safe when we were talking about a clean work environment and things of that nature. And I kind of lost my track. I apologize.
Were you talking about do you mean the fringed items and having shedding dogs around?
Yes.
That whole
too.
thing?
That too.
Yeah.
But mainly it was the chewing dog that worried me about the fringed item. My grandmother added that.
Okay.
So,
yeah. There's a reason why cats, for instance, go after things that are dangly off Christmas trees and so forth. I mean, it apparently bothers evil spirits too. Just having that present, and the Native Americans knew that, and they put fringe on their
everything,
clothing. Yeah, and
shoes.
For some reason it disrupts spirits. And we're not talking about the friendly ones that are coming to visit you like your grandma. We're talking about energies that are just not very good, And so the fringe helps with that, and it helps to sage your space sometimes and just clear out that energy as a practice at the beginning of the year anyway.
Yes.
And since so many of us are stuck working at home right now, it's good to do your little office space and your home and just kind of clear it with the intention of clearing it, starting a new year.
I have found that when I don't do that, I have issues.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that I don't want to do that. It's that I will get busy. I will get distracted. And before I know it, I'm like, why is my house weird?
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, oh, pay attention. Fix that.
Yeah. And it's interesting to me that there's a practice called Hygge. Have you ever heard of that?
Hooga?
Hygge.
Okay.
It's a Danish, so I wouldn't expect you to know that word, but it means cozy. It means coziness, and it's one of the first tips in the books about Hygge are, to spend 5 minutes a day just clearing off your desk, for instance, getting rid of anything you don't need right away, having files where you can put things and look them up later so that you don't have to have them all in front of you all the time, so you have workspace. And that's a matter of taking care of yourself. And you were talking earlier about giving yourself, off the air, you were talking about giving yourself permission to take care of yourself once you caught COVID. And that's going to be a very important practice this year is the Danish art of Hygge, which is just self-nurturing, self-soothing, because sometimes we just have to soothe ourselves because after all, the anxiety around a pandemic is very high. And so that's a very interesting practice. I'm Scandinavian, and so I think that it's quite nice. It was born of very long, nasty winters, and the sense of coziness, whether it's lighting from someone else's house across the way or the soothing feeling you get when you're out in nature. It's all of those things. And this year is one of those years when you'll need to keep stopping and kind of calming yourself down and taking life 5 minutes at a time.
It's going to be a little bit of a rough ride, isn't it?
I think so, but I think it's going to actually, when we look back on it, I think it's going to be one of the years of normalcy in a way to us. And the part of it is probably that we'll be able to come out of our COVID caves more. As this last strain, hopefully, of COVID runs its course. On a global level, tempers are going to run high, and we're seeing that, certainly, all this concern about the Ukraine. And I took great comfort, if people have been following the story about the Irish fishermen, I took tremendous comfort in the fact that the Irish fishermen who knew about the Russian war games off their coast had made the threat of going out and fishing in that area when the war games are going on. It's their economic zone. It's where they fish, and that's their livelihood. And so they threatened to be in the middle of that hellscape, in the middle of live fire exercises, Russian Navy exercises. And that very threat made Russia back down, probably because Russia's not as interested as people might think in a big international incident. If something had happened to those fishermen out there, there would be just hell to pay.
Yes, there would.
And because you're talking about maybe the British Navy, certainly the American and NATO forces, and it was very heartening to me, one, as an Irish descent person, someone who's at least a third Irish, I was very proud of my Celtic heritage, of these Celtic warriors who were willing to go out there unarmed in the middle of that. And I was also really, really heartened by the fact that Russia backed down from that and said, no, we will go farther out into the waters. We will not conflict with your economic zone with our testing. So we should take comfort from that perhaps Russia is not looking for the big world war that people seem to be building, the media is building this up to.
Well, I think this is primarily about the fuel.
Okay.
And the almighty dollars or rubles or whatever currency is wherever was being affected. But I don't necessarily think that this is somebody who is seeking confrontation, but I do think that we need to quit making it quite so easy for them to present it as such.
Yes. I am seeing they will. I'm seeing some sort of invasion. Of course, they're already in parts of Ukraine, but I am seeing some sort of invasion. But I'm also seeing a back down to some extent, and I'm happy about that. I agree with you that often these conflicts are very much about resources.
Yes.
Natural gas, oil, and that kind of thing. But we do have to kind of keep an eye on the dictators in the eastern parts of the world who they have to be watched pretty closely. Expect this to be a year of social unrest and political revolution in several countries, including, to a lesser extent, we're going to see protests in the U.S. But then we do, anyhow.
We do.
Yeah, but this one may be a little bit more volatile, and that's why I'm kind of advising that people try to stay out of real public venues if they can, if it's large crowds and things like that, if it's not necessary to be there. Not so much because of COVID, but because of violence or terrorism, be it domestic or foreign. The water in this year of the water tiger tells me that flooding events are going to be more common. They're going to cause island and seaside dwellers to move inland more, thereby causing some instability. We do have some island nations that are being forced to move inland, and that can cause violence because, once again, we're talking about having to share resources.
Yes.
Even
with a close neighbor.
Yes, exactly. Well, just imagine, what is it? 75% or something of the American population lives on the seaboards. Imagine that population having to move inward precipitously. I mean, of course, there would be a lot of upheaval over that. Although this is a water year in Chinese astrology, fire will continue to be a serious problem throughout the world in the form of wildfires, and especially in the hotter climates and heavily wooded areas. Vineyards and crops may start to be destroyed by fire this year. We've seen not as much of that, but more so in this year. And an extraordinarily strong female figure I see rising in Asia, probably China, one who will challenge the political structure. The dragon-like rise of this person will be highlighted by a celestial event over China, which could take the form of a meteor explosion or bombing from the sky. But it's quite a bit of upheaval.
Well, that's an interesting area for that to occur with a female.
Yes, exactly. Mm-hmm.
I could see North Korea because there is a sister there, but China. Do you have a feel for? Is she there in a position to move into power at this time?
It's more an upheaval in the way that that opponent of Putin's, I can never remember his name, the one that has been poisoned with radiation and things like that.
They had to get him to Germany to save him.
Yes, exactly.
I remember that.
It takes more the form of that kind of rebellious figure. Yeah, and it's Asia. It could be China. It's just I'm feeling it in that area somehow. And like you say, it could even be North Korea. But it's this strong female energy rising against male energy, which is interesting to me.
That is interesting in that culture.
Yes, yeah. But a lot of the great American walkout that we're experiencing right now is female-driven.
Yes.
These are women who had the choice of, I don't know what choices they really had. Do I go wait tables and let my children be home alone? I can't do that. What do I do if I've got to be at home with them and their schooling? What are you faced with there? Not too many choices. And yet, in a way, it's strengthened. I always thank the people that I'm out with if I'm eating in a restaurant or getting my hair done or whatever. I thank well a lot, and I tip well, because we're lucky to have you there at all. And we all kind of have to bear that in mind with these workers, that they've had to face some pretty awful choices during the pandemic, and I think it's strengthened them, their position in the world and how much we value them. On a national level, overall, 2022 will be a year of strength and courage in our country. There's sort of a not messing around quality when it comes to the tiger. You know, it's quite straightforward strength. And although it'll require shows of force at times, we will be successful in stamping out a lot of the tumult that we've seen. Hatred, evil, that kind of thing. Because of the tiger stripe, I predict that several highly public figures whom we thought were untouchable will be more prosecutable than we thought they would be. Mm-hmm. Expect both local and federal governments to become more forceful and swift in prosecuting serious crime, and
that would
even rethink,
nice.
Wouldn't it? And also in reconsidering crimes that are smaller. You know, none of us want our property destroyed, and yet a lot of that's not prosecuted in many states, and so we'll probably be rethinking that as well.
You know, I noticed that during the, during every kind of protest and riot, and, you know, that there were so many different things that did not get prosecuted. Nobody got in trouble for burning buildings down. Nobody got in trouble for, you know, killing people.
Yeah, right.
And, you know, I saw all kinds of stuff happen in Central Park in video, and, you know, I was appalled. I saw 3 little girls kick a statue over, and it landed on a friend of theirs, and they were so shocked that, you know, they killed this guy. But I never heard anything about them being charged or anything happening relevant to that. And, you know, when you see that, there are things to protest, okay? There are things that matter enough that you have to do what you can to change the world. You cannot do it by harming other people or destroying where you have to go to sleep at night.
Right.
You know, and I was just so, like I said, I was just so appalled that there seemed to be no repercussion for this behavior and the harm caused by it. And I don't care what group you're in, your group doesn't get to do that.
Right, exactly.
You know,
and so we are going to see this sense of trying to reestablish law.
That would be nice.
On many levels, because of the energy of the lion. What's more, I think sometimes stories that we want to know the ending to, we have to pursue very heavily in research, because the press is only there to talk about what bleeds. If it bleeds, it leads, and so they talk about that. But you never find out how it was prosecuted, or if it was prosecuted,
or if it was.
So yeah, you know, exactly.
But, I mean, those young women were trained. Those young women were changed forever.
Yes.
Right there, you saw it happen to them as they realized what they had done.
Yes.
And
but there are real consequences to that. Yes.
But there are real consequences. You don't just get to be upset and run home to daddy.
Right.
When you take a life.
Property. It's public property. You know? The COVID pandemic is going to wane. From what I'm seeing, as more Americans catch this Omicron variant, I'm seeing more of us building up some sort of resistance. That's not saying that getting vaccinated isn't important for vulnerable parts of the population, and for, you know, as much as possible, vaccinations help. But again, you're a walking example of someone who did that and still caught it anyhow.
Yes.
But I do think we're going to be kind of coming out of our COVID caves from March on. I think that we will see a dying down of this. And the Northeast and the Mid-Atlantic seaboard is going to continue to receive more than their share of snow and rain, and the hurricane season is going to be particularly wet and difficult for the southeastern U.S. I see a lot of water But I also see, some wind issues as well. Some parts of Florida and states just north of it will not be habitable. I mean, there's some people that I already know that are seeding their backyards and so forth because they're located so close to swampland and to the ocean. So we're going to see an eating away of land because of the rising seas. And likewise, wildfires in the west will eat away at some of the living space in woods and things. People love living in woods, and there are some beautiful, beautiful places to live. But the question is, do we want to stay here and have the house catch on fire? And so you may see them moving farther eastward into inland again. You're seeing an inland movement.
Well, with that, it would be great if we could do like the land management to prevent that. I don't know why that seems to be so difficult, but maybe somebody will implement that.
I heard someone tell me that lives out west recently, and she was talking about a fire near Lake Tahoe and just saying maybe it's okay to rebuild there because you don't have the trees anymore in that area, so the fire's not as much of a threat. And that is true. I mean, it's true.
Well, that's why you do those, pre-burns and keep the undergrowth cleared and stuff like that. And it's just land management. Farmers do it all the time.
Yeah. It also, though, has to do with moisture coming from the mountains, the spring thaw, and so forth.
Yes.
And if you don't have snow-capped mountains anymore, you don't have that
yes.
moisture coming down either. So
Absolutely.
that can be a problem as well. But the stealth of the tiger and its camouflaging stripes tells me that our authorities in our country must be on guard for undercover terror attacks this year, whether domestic or foreign. And much of the political unrest in the U.S. has gone underground, and violence would be more likely to be furtive or covert. It is therefore a good year for avoiding large crowds and big public events for that reason, besides the pandemic. And this will be a year of big winners, big losers in the stock market, so please invest with caution and avoid overspending in 2022. It can be, things are very expensive right now, and for that reason you may not know how much you're really spending with this kind of inflation.
Yes.
So things are quite high, obviously, and I of course, most people are pulling back and saying, "Well, I won't buy that new truck this year, or I won't do that remodeling this year." But it's just a good idea to be careful about how much you're actually spending. Unfortunately, for Holly, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was just going to say, because these, my generation probably is the last one to have had purchasing power in the last inflation crisis, right? So these people coming up, the 20 and 30 somethings, 40 somethings, they have no idea what inflation can really do.
Right.
It's dangerous.
Right. It definitely is, and I don't see it really getting under control till the second half of the year.
Well, we have to take a break.
About Okay, go ahead.
Sorry. But we will be right back. Y'all come back too with Janice Carlson.
You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... Nope. That'll do. Hello, I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experienced Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Welcome back to Fate Mag Radio, the online voice of Fate magazine, with my guest, Janice Carlson. And Janice, I appreciate you so much being here. We were discussing inflation, and Kat in our chat room, we have two cats, said that her children understand inflation, especially her eldest at 20, but they're Canadian.
Okay.
So, which may or may not have bearing on that, but she says that money burns a hole in her son's pocket, but he's trying, and her daughter is even rationing.
Okay.
So they're well planned.
Yes. Well, it's just interesting to me how many people I've talked to recently who don't buy beef anymore but buy shrimp. I mean, that doesn't sound strange to you probably in Alabama, but it's quite odd in Minnesota, up where we are. I mean, we raise
have a
cattle
source
here,
for shrimp
and
there?
Yet, what was that?
Do you have a source for shrimp there?
No, not unless it's shipped in from one of the coastal cities. You know, and yet shrimp is cheaper right now.
That's weird.
For us. So, I mean, I know what she's talking about in rationing. You're going to have to make some choices when you go to that grocery store about what we can buy right now and what is off the menu right now. Mm-hmm. And that's very typical of 2022 as we adjust to things, as we adjust to what's available and what isn't, and what would just cost a lot less next year at this time. Probably if you bought it then. I was going to say that unfortunately for Hollywood, the trend to streaming new movies rather than going to cinemas is going to continue. And the pandemic-induced love affair with, wearing sweatpants and being in comfy clothes is going to continue as well. So we may see designers who are going to take steps to make these sweatpants and other clothes look more tailored and formal for public wear. And many people will choose to continue to work from home. We're going to see that, of course, already we are, if their profession allows it. I do think we're going to see more home entertaining rather than people going to restaurants as much, too. Autumn is the luckiest and most blessed time for a tiger year, so expect to have a happier year towards the end of this year. Those will be some of the happiest months of September, October, and November. On a personal level, this will be a year when you become more physically aware of yourself, and you may be more interested in doing physical types of exercises, such as weightlifting and that type of thing. People are, because of the tiger's influence, I see that. I see that people are going to want to do light weightlifting, probably sculpting, that kind of workout too. And it's going to be a year when you may stand impulsively strong for the things you believe in. And we certainly saw that with the Irish fishermen. Yes. They really demonstrated what fierce resolve can do in the face of a strong military power. And but be careful that you don't unleash that same ferocity. I always say never underestimate the ferocity of a Celtic warrior. Well, the same with us. We have to be careful that we don't unleash our righteousness on people who don't deserve that kind of righteous rage. We have to pick who we're fighting with, you know. And so again, this is going to be one of those years where you've got to, like the tiger, you've got to think before you leap. What do I stand to gain? What do I stand to lose? And that kind of thing. Also, beware of being too cocksure of yourself in 2022. Have the wisdom to kind of consider the consequences. This especially applies, this really is interesting, it applies to making impractical wardrobe and interior decorating decisions. Make sure that what you're buying is really something that you know you can live with day in and day out. So there's, again, sort of this earth-scouringly practical level that we've probably seen in some of the younger generations, because they haven't had as an easy a go of it as, say, the baby boomer population and so forth. 2022 will also be a year, like we said, of speedy learning. So people are retraining for jobs, or even thinking up new kinds of services and products that they haven't ever considered before. You're likely to have more stamina this year because of the tiger, so expect to work harder. But there's also the flip side of that, where you're gonna relax harder. You'll be more prone to cat naps and long bouts of conserving your energy while maybe doing something like binge watching or reading. People are very likely to pick up books again, and who have not done as much of that. And you're more likely to crave large, hearty meals rather than turning to a lot of snacking and sweets. That'll be what I'm telling people here is about the waves that are going to be washing over you, and whether you pick up on these things will be a matter of free will, because nothing's written in stone. But this is what the currents look like. So when you're getting leaner, you'll get leaner and healthier probably in 2022, because you are not going to probably engage in as much snacking. Right. You may even go longer between meals too. And the tiger's occasional restlessness may cause you to travel more this year. Some people will just break out of their COVID cave and start traveling again, or they may change their place of residence. Tigers are quite restless animals, and they're always looking for their own territory also. So they can really roam over a wide expanse. And we may feel that we need to break out of the spaces we're in and go exploring more, too.
I can see that.
Mm-hmm. You can see the territoriality that's happening even in Europe right now, this territoriality that we're seeing. Oh, this is my country. No, that's somebody else's space.
Right.
And so far it's been peaceful.
You know, I have a friend who lives I believe in Kent, and they have a vacation home in France, and they've not been there for almost going into their third year because of COVID. And, I would be concerned if I, wasn't able to check on my property or do things of that nature. And they're very mellow and very accustomed to being socially apt. So the British are actually much more calm in these situations, I think, than Americans are, because they know what it is to have someone on their soil. But but it's just
they're
so
the ones who came up with that motto during World War II of keep calm and carry on.
Yes.
There's something to that.
And I'm always so impressed by her.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And her friends.
But it's true, though, that if you've neglected an area for a while, a vacation home or whatever, you're more likely to find squatters there when you get there,
Yes.
So it depends on, like I say, if everybody stays calm here, then these disputes can be settled peacefully.
Well, I'm just always always so impressed with her and her groups. They're women's. It's not the women's league. But similar. And I mean, they are just ferocious for their society and for their communities and for their children, and it's a good society.
Yes. Yeah. This will be a significant year, by the way, for our country. From the months of March through June, you're going to see a lot of legal and political issues in the news, and more so than normal, and very, very much watched kinds of things. And October and November again will be quite noteworthy from a political and a legal point of view. So keep an eye on that.
Do you feel like the elections are going to come off?
Do you mean the midterms?
I do.
Yes. I by that, do you mean, when you say come off, do you mean are they going to be...
Are they going to happen?
Functional? Yes. Yes.
I've been wondering about that.
Yeah. What other areas? It's weird because this is a year when I did the predictions where certain things are very black and white, very clear. Mm-hmm. And then there's a lot of gray in the middle. So are there any areas that you were wondering about?
Well, I had just been curious because, I was a political science major. I enjoy this observation of things that happen. And, I've just seen so many instances where people that don't appear to really understand how things work think that they can just arbitrarily go in a nation of laws and put those laws aside and just ignore them. And I don't want to ever see that happen here, relevant to elections and any kind of political anything, because we have been a nation of laws from our inception.
Yes.
And the rule of law is sacrosanct, or should be.
Yes.
And there are procedures in place to change those. But it's almost like in the recent past, people that have not studied, people who are not educated, people who are young and think that they are entitled to everything. Oh, people think that too. Have seemed to just want to arbitrarily change things that you just can't do that with.
Right.
And as somebody who truly enjoys that observation, I have found it alarming sometimes and you can't even have a conversation.
Yeah.
And that concerns me because I see that, I feel that is growing.
Yes.
That the lack of ability to just converse civilly about so many topics is just gone.
It's interesting because I used to teach, I wrote like 15 novels for New York publishers, and I used to teach technical writing up at our local Votech college, and we used to get into this discussion about subjective adjectives and objective adjectives, and subjective adjectives are the ones that you put some kind of spin on. And Jefferson, you may know this from your background in history and so forth, Thomas Jefferson had to actually stand in front of the Congress and say, can we all agree that this table is brown? Can we agree that the table is made of wood? It's wooden, as in an objective adjective. Those are objective adjectives. If you say that the table is shoddy or, old-fashioned or something, you are putting then a subjective spin, with those adjectives on what's being said. And so that's what he had to do to get right to the truth of the matter, talk to the states represented there, the colonies, you know what I mean, and say, what can we all agree that the sky is blue? Can we start there?
Right.
You know, and that struggle is as old as our country is.
Yes.
But the problem is when you get a lot of media giving very conflicting reports about things.
Yes.
Then people are all thinking that they're getting objective adjectives. And in fact, you're listening to an editorial space. You are not listening to news.
Yes.
You know, I remember one ad recently that said, "Are you only listening to the news you want to hear?" Well, that I don't know that really makes it news then.
I would agree. You know, you have to be able to hear opposing viewpoints. You may not agree with them, and you can fight with everything you have against them.
Yes.
But you need to hear them.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, I don't necessarily agree with everything I hear from every source that I utilize, but I utilize all kinds of sources from local to national. I like international newspapers. And I have a friend from Canada who gave me sourcing for that. And it's really important that people not forget that. And we are at the top of the hour, Janice.
Okay.
I can't believe this time is flying. But I just wanted to get your feel for that because I truly am concerned.
Yes.
You know, we're a nation full of such different mindsets and backgrounds and outlooks and people, but we're all Americans.
Yes.
And I think it matters so much. And that being said, guys, we're going to take our top of the hour break. Speaking of news, maybe we'll find a little good stuff here, right? So we'll see you on the flip side.
Live from NPR News, I'm Janine Herbst. The British government says it's, quote, highly likely that Russia is looking to invade Ukraine. NPR's Frank Langfitt reports this as the UK considers sending more troops to the region.
British Foreign Secretary Liz Truss said the UK could double troop deployments from current low levels.
We are offering to deploy extra troops into Estonia. We are providing more air support across the Black Sea, and we're supplying defensive weapons to Ukraine.
That includes thousands of anti-tank weapons. NATO head Jens Stoltenberg said that Europe needs to become less energy dependent on Russia, which could use oil and gas as political leverage in a conflict. Although Russia has massed well over 100,000 military personnel along the Ukrainian border, it continues to insist it does not plan an invasion. Frank Langfitt, NPR News, London.
Towns along the Jersey Shore are dealing with the aftermath of a nor'easter that left many places under 1.5 feet of snow. Janice Carlson from member station WHYY reports the National Weather Service confirmed blizzard conditions for the region.
Towns such as Atlantic City, Wildwood, and Cape May received up to 20 inches of snow, and wind gusts reached up to 49 miles per hour in Atlantic City. Longport is a beach town near Atlantic City where Nicholas Russo is mayor. He says big storms like this one are a trade-off of living near the beach.
The ocean can be calming. It can be, we use it for recreational sports and boating and those types of things. But the paradox is that the power of the ocean is absolutely incredible.
Meteorologists suggest that warming sea temperatures may lead to an increase in extreme storms like this one. It's why Russo advocates for improved shorefront protections. For NPR News, I'm Tennyson Donier in Lawrence, New Jersey.
In Ottawa, Canada, dozens of trucks are still blocking the downtown area after thousands rolled into the city yesterday to protest COVID vaccine mandates. Dan Karpinchuk reports the rally has been peaceful so far, but police are maintaining a heavy presence.
As many as 10,000 truckers and their supporters from across Canada have gathered this weekend to protest in front of the Parliament buildings. They want Ottawa to drop the requirement that all truckers who haul goods back and forth across the U.S. border be fully vaccinated. Supporters also want other public health restrictions lifted. Downtown Ottawa remains in gridlock as streets and many businesses remain closed or impassable because of the protesters and their trucks. On Saturday, protesters were criticized for jumping on the tomb of the unknown soldier. Police have erected barricades in front of the National War Memorial and say other national monuments will be protected. Protesters have also denounced Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. For NPR News, I'm Dan Karpenchuk in Toronto.
And you're listening to NPR News. In Nevada, at least 9 people died. Another was injured and is in critical condition after a 6-vehicle crash in North Las Vegas yesterday. Police are trying to determine if a driver was impaired while speeding through a red light, causing the collision. That driver and a passenger are among the dead. Investigators are still looking into potential causes of last month's devastating wildfire north of Denver. As Joe Wirtz from Colorado Public Radio reports, one possible source is underground coal fires.
2 people are presumed to have died in the December wildfire, which is now considered the most destructive in Colorado history. Fire officials say human activity and downed power lines could have sparked the blaze, which rapidly spread through drought-baked vegetation. Another possible source is a fire burning in an abandoned coal mine, which can smolder underground for decades. Regulators are actively monitoring more than 36 of these fires across Colorado, including 2 near the area that burned last month. For NPR News, I'm Joe Wirtz in Denver.
At the weekend box office, the bug reigns supreme. Spider-Man: No Way Home took the top spot in its 7th week in theaters with an estimated $11 million in ticket sales. The comic book adventure movie has taken in an estimated $735 million at the box office in North America, making it the 4th highest grossing domestic release in history. With $1.7 billion globally, No Way Home ranks as the 6th highest earning movie of all time at the worldwide box office. Scream came in 2nd place with $7 million. I'm Janine Herbst, NPR News.
This message is brought to you by the NPR Coffee Club. A subscription brings fresh roasted coffee directly to your door, and you can also give a gift subscription to the NPR superfan in your life. Learn more about our new NPR blends by visiting us at nprcoffeeclub.org.
Welcome back to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 5 minutes after the hour. Welcome back to Fate Mag Radio, the online voice of Fate magazine. I am Kat Hobson, your host, and I'm so glad that you're here. We've had a very interesting discussion for our first hour, and I am looking forward to the second. You know, I did want to, again, thank all of you for your support, and I am so glad that we have the community that we do here. We support each other, we offer healing and blessings and prayer, and you just can't touch that. I know that I am finding tonight's show with Janice Carlson to be fascinating. We've touched on so many different things, and you know, if you're going to be in a time of confusion or a time of discomfort, maybe in your world, I really think that when you have someone like Janice, it can help your perspective. It can help you be more aware of the surroundings and the attitudes, and maybe make you aware of yours as you're going into these moments. You know, I've known her for a couple of years now. She does a great job with her writing. If you have not read Soul Sensing, you really should. She is dedicated to helping you communicate with your dead loved ones, and she offers so many different ways to use afterlife communication tools or to recognize the signs of visitation by your past loved one's souls. Something that she does that really helps me is to sense the presence and messages of my loved ones with my chakras and intuition. You've got to read this book, and it even includes understanding the difference between visiting spirits and being haunted. That's a big deal. So, Janice, I'm going to bring you back in. I was bragging on you a little bit.
Yeah, thank you.
So, just about the different ways that your book, Soul Sensing, has affected my life. And
yeah,
I appreciate that so much.
Yeah, as you know, I had 2 dead parents by the time I was 10. I just didn't have much luck with parents, is kind of what I thought, essentially. But what I learned later on is that it was a lesson in life and death, and I was not willing to accept that they were gone for good and all. I just wasn't buying it, even though that's what everybody, I was 10 years old. That's what the adult world was telling me. So, you have a death in the family at that age or any time, and people come and they bring Jell-O salad and they bring,
yes,
I don't know what they do down south. We're big on Jell-O salad.
We get the
here,
congealed salads, yeah.
Okay, and Rice Krispie bars, big on bars, those kind of bars,
yes.
And that kind of thing. And then they're gone. And you're there with, say, your widowed mother or whatever, facing this empty chair at the table. And I wasn't buying it. I guess I just couldn't believe that very vital people in my lives just, poof, disappeared. I didn't buy it. It didn't sound right to me. And I knew if I believed, the Judeo-Christian tradition that they were in heaven, then why couldn't we talk to them? And so that's kind of where it began for me, was challenging the idea that you can't talk to them anymore, or that they can't talk to you anymore.
Right.
And I've just found it patently wrong. I've done medium sessions for 25 years. As you know, I've got a money-back guarantee of contact.
Yes.
So if I'm not getting the details about their death or their what I call identifying information, then I stop the session and I reimburse the person who's paid me through PayPal or whatever. But that doesn't happen very often. Maybe 1 in 30 sessions, 1 in 50. Because basically they do want to talk to us, and we do want to obviously my clients are calling because they want to talk to them. And so I see it happen all the time. And until it happens to you, though, a lot of times it's hard for people to believe in it.
I can see that.
Yeah, but I think our dead loved ones deserve a voice. I think they deserve an audience, a willingness to talk to them and to look at the signs that they're listening, that they're answering us. And some people give up because 24 hours later the sign comes in, and they've given up by then. Oh, my session with my pendulum or my cards or whatever, trying to talk to them, didn't work. But it comes 24 or 48 hours later. Well, they're not on the same timeline we're on, and they may be busy doing angel work or other things as well. But they're there, and I see it every day. And so I hate to see people have to swallow this bitter pill, your dead one's gone, and just sweep it under the carpeting and go on.
Well, because it's such a sense of abandonment.
It really is. For them, too. For them,
right?
too, because they'd like to talk to you as well. And they'd like to have you know about the blessings that they're putting in your life, too.
Well,
the little synchronicities that tell us that the angels and God and our loved ones, our deceased loved ones, are looking out for us,
Well, I think that's imperative. So,
yeah.
I really, I just can't tell people enough about your book. I keep it on my desk or somewhere close at hand.
Thank you, because I know you're sent an awful lot of books, probably, but so I'm flattered to have a place of honor there, because I know you probably get swamped with that stuff. But
to the point that my husband said, "Did you just put another suitcase of books to go down to your library?" And
yep,
I'm like, I did, yes. So because I won't go downstairs right now because it's kind of dusty and not aired out well, and I'm not going down there right now. But I do. I have so many books, and I love every one of them. And but yours really has a lot to say. I love it.
Thank you. It's really a how-to book. I mean, it really is meant for people to be able to do their own medium communications and not have to pay a medium to do it. Although I do tend to keep my prices really reasonable, you know. I think I charge about $75 for an hour session, so I do tend to charge a lot less than many others. But I feel it should be. I think it should be affordable, you know, and especially for a family that's already had to pay heavy hospital costs, quite possibly funeral costs. I think that this should be affordable.
Well,
and
can I ask you a question I never have before?
Sure.
If you have a family member who is not capable of good communication because of Alzheimer's, because of stroke, because of whatever, can you still reach that individual as a living being?
You can. Yeah, and I think you can even do it using the methods in my book, probably. Because there's an awful lot of out-of-body stuff going on with someone who's trapped in their body. There's a lot of out-of-body activity.
I had just been concerned. I have a mother who is moving into skilled nursing from memory care, and she does not communicate well. And with COVID, you know, COVID was just, as for so many people, kind of like the final straw as far as her being able to hold on to her reality. And that's the case for a lot of people. You know, it's our grasp on reality is sometimes tenuous at best. But when you are having those battles, then, you know, it's hard. It's hard to hang on tightly enough. So I'm going to be utilizing that with her because I'm her person now.
Okay.
So I had just wanted to get your input on that.
Yes, talking to souls, whether they're still in a body or they're out of body, is the same. You know, you can use the same tools to communicate with them.
Would they still be them?
Yeah, I mean, there's some level of them that is their soul, which is a complete functioning, thinking soul. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I just needed to know what to anticipate.
Yeah.
But did I interrupt you and get you completely off track with your predictions? Did you have more?
No. I was hoping you had questions because, like I said, there's this weird gray area that is not cut and dried. A lot of the Year of the Tiger is very cut and dried. A lot of the element of water talk is very cut and dried. But there's this middle zone that seems to be up to us. It's really going to be up to us this year to not lose our tempers, to not stop listening to each other, to use objective adjectives and know the difference between when somebody is editorializing and when they're reading you the news.
Right.
You know, there's a difference there. And we've got to get better at that because we have so many news sources in this country. And we've got to get better at not taking, we've got to take the time to research what you see in one source. You have to cross-reference with other sources. You know, that's crucial because you can't work with only half the story. Anybody who's raised children knows this. I mean, there's a fight in the bedroom, you hear something crash, one of them's on the floor crying, you're going to have to listen to both of them about what happened. You know?
I do, and have done that.
And then use your intuition to figure out, you know, what happened and what could be expected from each of them, too. We do it every day in our lives.
We do.
And we have to do it with each other as citizens. We have to care enough about each other as citizens to listen before we leap, like the tiger. And that's a valuable lesson from this. This can be a peaceful, good year if we remember those skills.
Well, I'm planning on utilizing that.
Yeah.
Because, I try very hard not to offend. I'm always interested in listening and learning, and I want to be able to have a conversation with someone so that I can understand their point of view. I'm not trying to, if I don't understand why you feel a particular way, if you're someone that matters to me, or even someone I don't know, you're still going to matter. But I want to learn from you. I want to learn why this is something that you feel so deeply. I want to learn why, you need to be reaching these levels. And I think it just matters so much. But we are going to have to take a break, which is crazy. But we will be right back. We're going to swoop right in, guys. Y'all hang with us.
You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama. Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting. You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... Nope. That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
We are confident that none of our hosts are possessed. Being repossessed a few times? That might be a different story. You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama.
Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 23 minutes after the hour. Welcome back to Fate Mag Radio with Kat Hobson. I am joined by Janice Carlson, and we have been having such a fantastic conversation. If you missed any of it, don't worry. We are available on iHeart, iTunes, Spotify, Google, anywhere you get your music, anywhere you get your podcasts. Just go get us. You can also hear us on fatemag.com, and that's a great website to go if you're needing to renew your subscription for Fate Magazine. You know you need that. Or if you're missing some archived copies, Phyllis does have uncirculated issues that you can just go ahead and take care of getting that collection up to date with. And there are trading cards and hoodies and the best t-shirts on the planet. I'm not kidding. It's so comfy and cozy. So check out fatemag.com. Janice, I am so glad that you are here. I am having the best time with you.
I'm glad to be here. It's fun. Kind of breaks up a really dreary January here, going into February up here in Minnesota, yeah.
How long do you keep snow on the ground?
Oh, forever. I've seen it snow in late April. It just seems to go on forever. It really does.
That's terrible.
They have, however, been milder winters than when I was growing up here in the 60s and 70s. They are milder winters than they used to be. And I guess in a way they kind of do get ushered out a little bit faster, too, these days because I suppose of climate change.
Right.
Yeah.
I just am such a weirdo about snow and getting snowed in. The first time I ever saw snow that was not here in Alabama, I'd moved to Tennessee and I woke up and there was like a couple of feet of snow and I panicked because I had no groceries.
Oh,
and
dear.
I was like, oh my gosh. And the ex was like, the snowplow will be through in an hour. You're okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, you have snowplows? Totally different outlook after that.
Yes. And you probably bought some canned goods after that,
Darn right.
Make sure you got some cans of soup or something.
I was never with a bare cupboard again.
No.
Learn fast, learn quick.
Yes, you do. Yeah.
Well, I have to ask you, out of the predictions that you have made for 2022 that we've covered so far, which ones do you feel affect you personally the most?
I would say the fact that I'm seeing COVID abating, going away and getting into milder strains of it. I think that's probably the biggest one for me personally because I'm not, I'm in my 60s, so I would have to be more cautious than say someone who's in their 50s or younger about where I go and that sort of thing. Like I'm fully vaccinated with booster and all of that, but that would be probably the most life-changing issue. And then just what the water tiger would do to my personal sign, which is Taurus and the earth signs.
Mm-hmm.
Taurus just really does not do well with stuff coming out of the blue. And that was 2021. There was just a lot of surprise, and they were rarely good surprises.
Truth.
Rarely. We all have our own little anxieties about things, and I don't do well under general anesthetic. So being told that I needed a couple surgeries was really awful, because I didn't want to be. I have to thank the medical world for my near-death experience when I had a colonoscopy in 2019, because how many people get a chance to talk about that experience where they died for a little while and then were brought back? But on the other hand, I didn't want to go through it again. And so I had to have both of my surgeries done with the local anesthetic. And I survived it, I mean, it was okay. And maybe I needed that experience too. Everything that happens to us is to help our spirits learn and grow and evolve. And I think a lot of the conflicts we're going through right now in this country and abroad are about evolution, about evolving as a species. But then I tend to see things from more of a, outer space point of view. I really think that we're going to get information that, more and more from the Pentagon and other government sources that there are extraterrestrials and there are things we don't always talk about here but probably should. And the influence of that on our Earth. And fate is really based on that. It came out of the 1948,
Absolutely.
Stuff, so as we evolve as a species, and I think we're being helped to evolve, of course, there are going to be changes that come with that. And we're seeing the changes. And whether it's dealing with the global economy, you and I were talking about during one of the breaks about the exorbitant cost of trucks and cars right now, and how one of the problems is just that we're not making our own computer chips for these things. the way we should be in this country. You know,
I agree.
if you're waiting for them to come from Asia in a market where you don't have enough staff to unload your cargo ships off the coast of California, you got problems. You know?
Yeah, but Savannah and Charleston and all these other ports are sitting there wide open, emptying everything that comes in. So use the canal, people.
Yeah. Here we are. I mean,
we built that canal for a reason.
Often distribution is the big problem, whether you're talking about famine or you're talking about trying to buy a new pickup truck that actually has a computer chip in it or a semiconductor or whatever. I mean, this is forcing us as a country to look at what we do here and what we make here and the importance of really revising some of that.
Well, I hope that's what is taken from it, right? Because you cannot be dependent on other countries to the point that you can't feed your people.
Exactly.
And that is starting to happen. And, that part is terrifying.
Yes, and Europe is having to look at the same thing right now.
Canada is too. I mean,
really, all of our heating oil is coming from Russia. What? Our energy? Well, what? You better assess that because they may be hostile or they may not even be able to help you out. They just can't get it to you in time. So that independence is very important. We've always recognized that, I think, in the United States, the importance of being independent, in your ability to take care of yourself.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, the day that you have to trust someone else to take care of what you should be taking care of is a very dangerous lesson to learn.
Yeah, it is a slippery slope, that's for sure.
But
absolutely.
I got tickled because as you were talking about being a Taurus and Kat in chat was saying she's a Taurus. I'm married to a Taurus, and let me tell you, that has been a very interesting relationship since I was 19.
I'll bet.
So
with a Scorpio, I'll bet. Yeah.
With a full-blown Scorpio.
Yeah.
And I can't even get my full chart done because nobody knows when I was born. It's not on my birth certificate, like the time. And I was like, well, I don't know what to say about that. I didn't know that mattered. But it is something that I'm so fortunate because as Kat just said in chat, we're a little stubborn, LOL. He is. Couldn't possibly be me, right? But
well, no.
But that's a volatile blend. So, but it really works because the integrity, the care, and everything else relevant to that. Both of our signs feel that matters. So, and just to answer Kat Ward in chat, she said would there be a record at the hospital, and there's not. A, the hospital is closed, but B, the Department of Vital Statistics does not have a time of day slot on my birth certificate. So there's that. But because I've tried. And I've actually investigated
do you know
the
roughly,
hospital.
do you roughly know what time of day it was? Can you? Is your mother still with us?
My mother is still with us, but with the fairies. And
okay.
So I'm going to try I just remembered I have an aunt by marriage who was my hero growing up, and she may be able to help me.
Yeah.
So,
just kind of give you roughly what time of day. I mean, you don't need the exact time of day necessarily. They can kind of fudge a little bit, but when they're doing your chart. But I mean, if you even just know it was evening or afternoon, early afternoon, that kind of stuff, it helps.
Well, I will find out. Why is that an issue?
I don't know. I mean, I'm not a Western astrologer. I just use some of these tools in order to do my predictions every year. Mm-hmm. But my guess would be it has to do with alignment of stars and so forth, time and space.
That would make sense.
And what's aspecting you at that time. What's interesting about Scorpio, especially someone like you who's quite public, I mean, you have to go on a radio show and be public once a week or more often probably. And Scorpio can be deeply private.
True.
It can be a very private sign. So, they have to guard that they're not telling more than they are willing to give to the outside world. It's not that they have secrets to hide, it's that they are deep people, and they have a very strong sense of boundaries.
True. I will say that in doing what I do, I have outed myself on a couple of different shows with guests who were very, psychics, or just, in one instance, someone who was an oral reader, mm-hmm. and felt that I had a UFO connectivity and was part of a particular bloodline. And when I was estranged from my daughter, one of my friends who is a psychic who was on was just like, we're going to talk about this after we get off the air. And I'm like, okay, but just so you know, I'm not adverse to sharing with my audience. I really don't hide anything from my audience here. And he was like, well, you do. So I had to concede. But it really is funny because this has brought me more into being comfortable with myself and not minding if people know something that's a little weird, or maybe not weird, unusual. But I am strange and unusual.
Do you have green eyes?
Nope.
Hazel?
Brown.
Brown, okay. Because I know that some people have talked about, what 2% of the population has green or hazel eyes, and it's kind of linked with sightings and close encounters. It's interesting to me that anybody who was interviewing people who had had close encounters or had sightings and things would ask the eye color of the people they're interviewing. But they actually have done that, and there's a real link between green eyes and hazel eyes and extraterrestrial sightings and encounters, which would kind of maybe tie in a little bit with DNA,
Well, with the RH factor as well.
Yes, and the RH factor as well, absolutely. And that stuff's really interesting, for sure.
I love that stuff.
I know, yeah. And I think I've been lucky in that the other frontier is the exploration of life after death.
Yes.
And that I've been able to explore that so much with clients through the years. I'm always learning something new. And one of the things I didn't put in my book, but I think is really interesting, is that when you lose a spouse, it's very important to pay attention to your bedroom ceiling. The bed, I'm assuming you slept in with the spouse. There can be a vortex forming there, because I hear this so much that people start to see, after they shut the lights off at night, they start to see things on the ceiling. And my feeling is that because your deceased loved one often comes and sleeps with you at night as a guardian angel. Sometimes they spoon with you and so forth. And my feeling is they come and go so much through that space that it starts to become a vortex, for visitation. Every house has some vortex for visitation, We have one hallway in our basement where the dogs just sit and stare out at this hallway, and I always know when someone's visiting because they're doing that. There's nothing in the hallway, and yet they obviously are seeing someone walk by or someone standing in the doorway, because pets can perceive this stuff so much better than we can as humans.
Well, yes. And I happen to have a dog now who is a little freaky. He is a mini Australian Shepherd, and he came to us a little damaged, and he is the one who will just be stopped in the living room and looking. Mm-hmm. And then he'll look over there and he's like, oh, there it is. Okay. You know, and it is just the weirdest thing. And it was disconcerting at first, because I've always known that my animals know. And in fact, I've had experiences with 2 of them who have passed. And it's weird. It's weird that this dog, who is not who I would consider an incredibly... He is very bright, but he is very concerned and skittish and timid and just not a... He's much better. We've had him for a couple of years now and he's adapting. But he has really struggled with seeing things on the ceiling, seeing things in the hall, hearing things in the hall, and it's bizarre. I don't know what to do for him.
Well, and it's possible that do you know the circumstances of how he came to be, a foster dog or a dog up for adoption?
Well, he was a free dog on Facebook that my husband saw and fell in love with, and he's beautiful. He's a Hollywood dog, and I was like, oh my gosh, somebody will take him for a bait dog. We cannot. I mean, I did not want another dog. We had just lost one. I was done. Done. And so we got him. And a woman had him, and I think that she had crated him, and you cannot do that with a working dog.
Yeah, I agree.
And she just made him crazy. He nips. I have to use a muzzle when the grins are over, because and he's a sneaky biter. So,
oh dear.
Well, just because he's it's not even bad biting. It's just he just reacts, and but he does it whether they're running or whether they're standing still. So,
well, sometimes, when we don't know the past of an animal, it's possible that the owner died, and so they're seeing the spirit of a deceased owner, too, visiting in your home. And it would stand to reason that that an owner would come back and just check on a dog that they loved. We don't always know the circumstances of a dog that we get. But I've seen that before, where a previous owner seems to be the one visiting them because they seem quite comfortable with it.
Well, he's not comfortable.
Visiting. He isn't. Oh, okay.
He's very rarely comfortable. He has a very difficult time relaxing enough to rest well.
Okay.
Although
and do
he
you
is
give
much
him
better.
anything? Do you give him anything for that? Any of those like herbal relaxation tablets? Or
I have some.
chewable?
He doesn't care for them.
Oh, okay.
But but I will love and stroke him and pet him and call him George sometimes. But we have to take our last break, and we'll be right back. Y'all come back too, and bring your questions.
You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... Nope. That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experienced Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Welcome back for the final segment of Fate Mag Radio. I am Kat Hobson, your host, along with my guest, Janice Carlson. And I hope that you have learned a lot about what we have coming for us this year and how to just kind of embrace it and roll with it. And that you have written down the name of Janice's book, Soul Sensing. And you can get it on Amazon. You can get it from her website. But Soul Sensing, How to Communicate with Your Dead Loved Ones, is something that really does stay on my desk. There is lifestyle information. There is communication, afterlife communication. There's just basic living in this book. Living with the spirits, living in the spirit. So you want that. But Janice, I've had so much fun. Our conversations always go so quickly.
Yeah, and we covered a lot of topics, it seems like, too.
We have. Even random off-the-wall things.
And as long as we listen to each other this year, rather than just listening to our choice of media, we can have a good, productive year as Americans.
Well, that's so important no matter what the environment is. It's just important to do.
Right.
Respect is a good thing.
Absolutely.
So, respect for yourself, respect for others. And believe it or not, the respect for yourself is what is the most important. You know, you have to have self-respect in order to respect others.
Exactly.
And yeah, we're living in a really big emotional basket this year so far. And we have been doing that for a couple of years, and we're all struggling with that. Yeah. So be kind to yourself, be kind to your family and friends, be kind to people that you just didn't even know might possibly be your family and friends. You know,
yeah.
It's important because it's really hard to walk some things back. And I think that matters.
Yep, absolutely. Put yourself in other people's shoes. That helps too. Figure out where they're coming from.
Well, what do you think probably is the most important thing that you've shared tonight?
Just that ability to listen to each other rather than always listening to very depressing news or very provocative news. You know, on a community level to listen to each other and on a national level and at a state level. It's just important to do that, to make sure you've got your mouse get ears on and make sure you're really paying attention to what other people's concerns are. Because there are a lot of people in this country who don't feel like they're being heard.
Truth.
And that starts at the grassroots level, I believe.
I agree.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, it's hard to, it's hard, period, if you feel that no one is listening to you.
Yes.
It's so frustrating. People feel so marginalized easily when, you know, you've got all these big things happening and there's the opportunity, you know, to even be part of a bigger thing than yourself.
Yes.
But as I'm going to go out on a limb, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but if you're going out to become part of something bigger than yourself, or you feel that it is, you have to be really careful not to lose yourself.
Yes. Yeah,
I've seen a lot
Always
of that,
remember.
I think.
Yeah, agreed. You can be carried by the currents away from what you came there in the first place to do. Absolutely. You have to be centered as a person and know why you're getting involved with whatever it might be.
Right. And, you know, I hope that a lot of what we've discussed is not going to be quite as tough as we both feel it might. But if somebody is finding it so, do you feel the most important thing that they can do to nurture themselves through it is just to acknowledge that, okay, this is tough.
Yeah.
But it has to be dealt with and gone through.
Yes. Yeah. And asking yourself what you're really afraid of and who you're really mad at. Those are two very important questions.
Oh, good point, Janice.
I see a lot of anger, but I don't see pre-Civil War stuff on the streets. I'm not seeing that. And I have had a lot of clients we're going to have a civil war, and it's, nah, I'm just not seeing it. I'm just not. As a psychic, I'm just not. But I am seeing a lot of angry people, and I think we need to ask why they're so mad and who they're mad at, specifically.
Right.
And those are just things that we as people have to process for ourselves. In our lives, am I mad at my dad for dying when he did? And do you know what I mean? All those kinds of, a lot of it goes back to your parents, and
that's the truth.
Yeah, and then you're just carrying it over to a political arena. But we do have to listen to each other and figure out why people are so scared. What are they so afraid of? What are they so angry about?
Well, anger and fear are closely tied.
They are tied, yet together. I mean, because when you're afraid, you can lash out, So those are important things. If we start there, coming into this with ourselves in a healthy place, or certainly a healthier place. I also think people need to take life 5 minutes at a time, and we've lost that sense of staying in the moment. And that's what causes anxiety, is getting too far ahead of yourself all the time. I wake up in the morning with anxiety, and I'm thinking, well, because you're trying to think about your whole day, and you're not there yet.
That's a great point.
You're only at the get up and make yourself a cup of coffee point in your day. And so don't keep trying to cross bridges that you haven't even reached yet, So I think those are important issues for anxiety-ridden situations, too. You take them one thing at a time, and it's not going to be the battle that you think it is.
Well, I find that people gird themselves for battle when they really should just gird themselves for breakfast.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
and you get on with your day, and whatever that anxiety was, I think they call it morning dread or something. It's an actual phenomenon, but you're trying to get way out ahead of yourself here, and it may end up not being too bad at all, right?
Right. I used to have a little thing that I kept on my desk when I did the corporate world, and it was like, getting an exhaustion going. Lately, several things have just attacked me at once, and there were never attacks. It was just
they just feel that way because they weren't planned. Exactly. But I wish you a wonderful 2022, and I know that you're going to be feeling better in a day or two, too.
Oh, yes.
You know, you're doing pretty well because you were vaccinated, so you're doing pretty well, I think.
I think so, too. Thank you for that. And I hope your 2022 is lovely, too.
Thank you.
I really have a good feeling. I know it's going to be tough. We're coming out of some serious angst already.
Yeah. It'll be a little rocky, but we'll get better here.
We will.
Mm-hmm.
And we will do this again, same cat time, next cat year. But we'll talk between. I love your predictions.
Cat, and I hope you do well in the year of the tiger, Cat. That's perfect.
Yeah, I love it too. And, well, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Now, do you want to tell people your website?
Yes, it's JaniceCarlson.com. So it's Jan as in Nancy ICE, Carlson CARLSON .com. And that's the website. You can go there and learn about the book and how I do my medium sessions and so forth.
And book with you, right?
Yes, the book Soul Sensing, How to Communicate with Your Dead Loved Ones.
But they can book with you at your site as well, correct?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, well, they have to call me, but they'll have my phone number there, and it'll tell them how to set up an appointment with me. Call me or email me, and we'll get you set up. Also, the book is available on Amazon, so it's easy to get a hold of. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
I have had
so
the
much,
best
Kat.
time with you, and thank you for being my first show back.
Yes. Welcome to the
good.
New Year. Welcome to the
Yes.
Chinese New Year on the 1st of February. Okay.
All righty. And for all of you listening, I hope you have enjoyed Janice nearly as much as I have. This is one of my favorite things to do. And last year, she rocked my world with her predictions. So that was a lot of fun. And this year, I am going to hang on to the fact that it's going to be a little rough and rocky. I do have some property that she's talking about being affected, so we're going to just look for the good in everything and just ride gently through the tough times. So just, nod your head and breathe in, breathe out, move on. So take care of you, take care of your loved ones. And I appreciate so much you being here with us. Make sure you don't forget that if you don't like the world you're looking at, you can fix that. Just change it. Manifest that change. Smile. Let people see your eyes. Share the good. Help with the bad. And just be the person that you would like to have as a friend. We can all do that. We can all make this a better place to be. So, that being said, thank you again, and we will talk with you next week. Good night.